本当に伝えたいのは違う言葉だった。本当に感じたいのは違う心だった。すれ違いが溝を生み、ためらいの気持ちが人を恐怖へと沈ませる。もう誰も止められない。冷たい感情がむき出しの心を深く残酷にえぐってゆく。綿流し。なぜあの時とつぶやく後悔の言葉。それはもはや虚しい響きだった。
That's already ominous.
ケイチくんだ。おはようなんだよ。だよ。
Rena was ecstatically waving her arms at me, already brimming with energy.
おはようって、もう夕方だぜ。こんにちは、だろ。
でも、今日ケイチくんにする最初の挨拶だから、やっぱりおはようがいいな。いいな。
Now, I believe, God, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure in like the Japanese workplace, this is what you're supposed to do if I'm not mistaken, where even if it's like evening or nighttime or anything like that, if you have not seen a specific coworker and they're like a senpai of yours, you know, they're someone in a higher position than you greet them like this or something along those lines. You say a specific phrase that denotes like a first greeting, which is usually said in the mornings. I can't remember which. I might be wrong, but anyway.
わかったわかった。じゃあおはようでいい。おはよう、レナ。
I grabbed Rena's head and rubbed it with my hand. She squirmed, reveling in motion like a cat.
やっほー、ケイちゃん。昨日は申し訳なかったね。黙って帰っちゃってさ。
ああ、それを言うなら俺の方が悪かった。ミオをずっと待たせっぱなしでごめんな。
昨日のお祭りの準備のことかな。どうだったケイチくん。しっかりとお仕事してた？
The slight muscle pain throughout my body and my sluggish movements were already obvious.
頑張ってたよ。へばってたけどね。
I grinned dryly and the three of us break into laughter.
サトコとリカちゃんは祭り会場で合流か？
うん。リカちゃんはほら、大切なお勤めがあるから昨日からずっと。サトコちゃんもそのお供だそうだから、もう二人とも神社にいるよ。
Right, I just remembered. Today was Rika-chan's big performance. She'd been practicing especially hard for this day. As her friend, I needed to make sure I went and cheered her on.
よっしゃ、早速行こうぜ。
As we got closer to the shrine, we started passing by more people and seeing a lot of parked cars. It began to get noisier too. I thought I could hear something like a Bon dance song. Or Bon dance song. Without being able to restrain my impatience, I dashed up the entire flight of stone stairs.
ケイチくん早いよ。待って。
たくケイちゃん、お子様なんだからな。
We are just so excited. Whoa, the shrine grounds, they were packed with people. It was a festival if I ever saw one.
うわー、今年も立派だね。すごいね、すごいね。
南沢中から出てきてるんだろうな。ありゃ、君吉分家の寝たきりじいさんまで来てるじゃない。あのじいさん、去年の綿流し以降ずっと布団の中で過ごしてたんじゃないかな。
Really? Yeah, there were a lot of villagers here that I didn't really know. They must have all been pouring in just for today.
あ、さとこちゃんだ。はーい。あら、皆さんでございますの。こんにちはですわ。
Konnichiwa desu wa.
よう、さとこ。今日はすごい人手だよな。はぐれて迷子になるなよ。
誰が迷子になるんですの？
Satoko too seems somehow energetic. Of course, I'm the same way.
あれ？リカちゃんはまだ自由時間でしょ？リカは村長さんたちと挨拶してましたですわ。すぐに来るでございますわよ。
I see. Rika-chan is the shrine maiden for today's festival after all. It's probably a pain for her to say hello to all the elders.
実に大変なのですよ。こんにちはなのです。リカちゃん、お餅帰り。
Mochikairi. Rika-chan wore an immaculate shrine maiden outfit that looked fresh off the shelves. It was a perfect fit for someone. It was a perfect fit for her somehow mystical appearance.
どう？丈とか長すぎない？バッチャからもしも袖がかかるようならって安全ピンを預かってきてるんだけど。
大丈夫なのです。
That's cute. So Mion was the one that was able to
実
get
に
the outfit
快
for her.
適なのですよ。
As she spoke, she began to do some twists and stretches.
いいね、いいよね、これかわいいよね。はう。
There was approximately one person here getting a nosebleed from watching Rika-chan move.
ケイチ君は可愛いと思わないかな。思わないならレナノになっちゃうからお持ち帰り。
すごく可愛いと思うぞ。かなりカス。不敬のふりをして写真を撮りまくりたいくらいだ。2点から撮影して立体視できるようにすれば、立体の生リカちゃんが自宅でいつでももとい眺め放題。
いいねいいねいいね。
Rena's eyes and mine glittered with stars as our noses bled and we drooled. Oh god.
あいつらに近寄ると大変ですわよ。地下室とかに閉じ込められるかもしれないのです。
その割にはリカちゃん楽しそうだけど。
ミーがひどいことを言うのですよ。
We all laughed together again.
じゃもたもたしないで祭りを回るかね。リカちゃんの出番までそう時間がないでしょ。
そうだな。よっしゃ行こうぜみんな。
よー、園崎のお嬢ちゃんじゃねえの。食ってきな。豚肉たっぷりの焼きそばだぜよ。今年はイカリングまで入ってるボリューム派よ。
Oh, that sounds delicious.
ヘイ親父。
Oh god, like some yakisoba with pork and fried calamari.
今年の焼きそばもなかなか力作じゃないの。イカまで入れるとは今年は奮発してるね。
へえ、美味しいね美味しいね。
ああ、イカってのは食ってもうまいが、それ以上に匂いが香ばしいんだよな。軟弱になりがちな歯ごたえも実に見事に補ってる。イカと豚肉のボリューム感は実に素晴らしい。悪くない出来だ。
へえ、ケイちゃんって何気に料理番組の司会とかに向いてるね。
ケイチ君が美味しそうに食べてるとなんだかいつもよりもずっと美味しそうに感じるもんね。
俺はうまいものはうまいっていう主義なんだよ。だから俺がうまいっていうものはとりあえず試してみる価値があると思うぞ。
True?
ではケイイチ、この焼きそばの評価を改めてどうぞなのですよ。
一言で言うとだ。うまい。
めっちゃうまい。
胃袋がもう一つあるんなら迷わずもう一つ買ってるな。
Having heard my 3-star rating, a whole line of people suddenly formed in front of the yakisoba stand.
お、すごいよ。ケイちゃんがあんまりにも美味しそうに言うもんだから集客効果バッチリだわ。なるね。
It was nothing to brag about, but I still decided to stick out my chest and put on airs. Mm-hmm.
あら、そうなんですの？では、私も挑戦してみましたよ。おじさんおじさん、たこ焼き一つくださいますこと？
Satoko bought a stick of takoyaki balls, a stick of takoyaki, balls of fried octopus, from the adjacent stand, and after blowing on it, put one of them into her mouth.
どうかな、さとこちゃん。美味しい評価が出るなら、レナも買うよ。
さあ、料理評論家の北条さとこ審査員のご感想をどうぞ。
Though she was all for it a moment ago, Satoko hesitated to give her thoughts. Hey now, what's the matter? Everyone else takes one of their own and puts it into their mouths.
あれれ、レナのは外れだね。
She got gypped?
僕のも外れです。タコさんが入ってないのです。
Oh no! This takoyaki vendor. Could this be some sort of summer festival only octopus free takoyaki stand? An evil takoyaki stand that skimped on the octopus because they figured it would make good money? Oh no. So takoyaki are just like little balls of dough, right? That are filled with octopus, right? Or in some cases they'll replace it with something else. But then they won't be takoyaki, they'll be whatever yaki. And sometimes they do this. Or I've heard that they do this shit. Where they're like, well, people will just buy them because it's takoyaki. And they'll buy fried dough that's been cooked, right? And spun. And they'll have the little, like, balls of dough. And they'll be seasoned and everything, right? With, like, the sauces and the, not spices, what are they? It's like seaweed, right? On top. And then they'll bite into it. And they'll be super fucking disappointed that there's no taco in the takoyaki.
あ、私のには入ってたわ。うん。タコが入ってる分には十分うまいよ。
このタコなしタコ焼きをどう美味しそうに解説すればいいんですの？
Everyone wondered about that. Her quizzical look seemed to be drawing equally dubious stares from the people online.
こんなのはどうかな？たこ焼きなのにタコが入ってないからとってもヘルシー。タコの嫌いな人でも食べられる美味しいたこ焼き。
After hearing that, several surprised guests left the line. It had the exact opposite effect.
じゃあ次は私が挑戦するよ。小麦粉やネギ、紅生姜の味などの素朴さをしっとりと味わわせてくれる自信作。タコが入ってない分だけ素材の味が程よく。
It wasn't half bad, but after hearing the "there's no octopus in it" clause, even more people left the line.
リカちゃんは何かいいコメントはあるか？率直でいいぞ。
これで400円は高いのです。
Hold on. How much is it in current day? It's like 50. It's $2. Yeah, 400 yen. It's almost $3. Yeah, paying like 250 for what, like a stick? So it would be like 4 probably. 4 takoyaki like shoved into a stick. Yeah, that's way too much. That was too honest. Even more customers leave the line, dealing a lethal blow. There were other takoyaki stands around after all.
いやー、なんかその私らとんでもないことをしてるような。ほら、さとこ、あんたが始めたことなんだからビシッとここで逆転させなさいよ。
無理でございますわ。タコの入っていないたこ焼きなんてどう褒めればいいんですの？
You idiot. Satoko's angry outburst was the finishing blow.
お客さんみんないなくなっちゃった。あれれ、おじさん睨んでる。なんでだろう、なんでだろう。は
because we drew, well, not scared away all his customers, but, you know. There's no saving this crowd. Perhaps I, Keiichi Maebara-sama, will lend a generous hand.
圭一ならきっとなんとかできますですよ。タコなしたこ焼き屋さんを助けてあげてほしいのです。
笑顔でトゲのあることを言うな。まあ分かった。俺がプロの技を見せてやるからよく見てろよ。
Oh god, what the fuck are we gonna do? I shoved the stick into an octopus-less sorry, I shoved the stick into an octopus-less takoyaki and crammed it into my mouth. Oh, okay, no. Never mind. I thought they were selling them on the stick, which I don't believe ever happens. They're talking about how well, when they're served, you usually get them on like a small little plate, right? Or a little box. And they give you like a toothpick and you just kind of, you know, stick the toothpick into the takoyaki and then you just eat it that way. As before, there wasn't any octopus in it, but Mion's had some in it. That was the important point.
このたこ焼き屋の親父さんは本当の意味でたこ焼きが好きなんだ。いや、愛してると言っていい。
Everyone gasped in surprise, including the takoyaki vendor glaring at us.
あの親父さんは本当にたこ焼きが大好きなんだ。大好きだからこそいい加減なたこ焼きを作りたくないんだ。そうだね、親父さん。
The takoyaki vendor looked down, unsure. Those watching were listening intently, wanting to know why the octopus-less takoyaki deserved such a high rating.
でも圭一さん、そんなにたこ焼きが大好きならどうしてタコなしたこ焼きなんか作りますの？たこ焼きに対する裏切りではございませんの？
そうだな。ある意味裏切りだ。だがこれは親父さんにとっての最大限の妥協点なんだ。親父さんは今日だって本当のたこ焼きを作ってるよ。でもそれはこの中のほんの一つか二つでしかない。
まあそうだね。私の食べた一つにはタコは入ってたし、タコが入ってる分にはそんなに悪い味じゃなかったよ。
そう、それが本物のたこ焼きだ。それ以外のたこ焼きは8個入ってなきゃたこ焼きじゃないという一般人の先入観への最大限の妥協なんだ。
圭一くんの言う意味がわからないよ。
God.
どうして本物は一つで他は偽物なのかな？
その秘密はタコにあるんだ。親父さん、このタコ本物の明石のタコだね。近年明石のタコの水揚げは激減してとても高騰しているんだ。たこ焼きなんかにとても使えないようなとても高い値段になってしまってるんだ。
That's why. Then the man who had been looking down this whole time mumbled.
ああ、そうよ。明石のタコはすごく高いんだよ。
でも親父さんは明石のタコにこだわったんだ。安物のいい加減なタコを使えばいくらでもごまかせるのに。
My God.
明石のじゃないのに明石というのぼりを立てて販売してるインチキたこ焼き屋はいくらでもあるのに、親父さんはごまかさなかった。嘘をつかなかった。
Holy fuck. What the hell are you saying, Keiichi?
この一点だけを堅くなに譲らなかったんだ。親父さんはたこ焼きを愛してた。だから嘘をつけなかった。でもどうしても一点だけ強いられる妥協点があったんだ。
それは何ですの？
数さ。たこ焼きってのは一船8個がポピュラーだ。いくら本物の明石のタコだからって言って400円で1個だけってわけにはいかないだろう。でも8個にしなくては買ってもらえない。だから親父さんは涙を飲んだ。本物のたこ焼きを一つ作るために残り7個に嘘をつくしかなかったんだ。
Oh, the octopus-free takoyaki vendor burst into tears. I gently clap one of his shoulders.
みんなが何と言おうと俺はあんたの純粋さを忘れない。あんたこそは本物のたこ焼き屋なんだ。
Jesus fuck, Keiichi.
あんただけがたこ焼き屋を名乗っていいんだ。
This is like the most anime shit ever. As I embraced the shoulders of this man, shedding his manly tears, those watching delivered a round of applause moved by my speech.
さあみんな、この本物のたこ焼き屋のたこ焼きをどうか食べてやってくれ。こんな純粋な男を大事にしなくてどうして本当のたこ焼き道が守れようか。みんなが食わないなら俺が食うぞ。
見てた人たちがみんな並ぶよ。圭一くん、やったやった。
たこ焼きが美味しそうに感じたってより、ケイちゃんの味演説が面白かったからだよね。ケイちゃんってガマの油売りとかやったらかなりウケるかもしれない。
This ain't China, we don't need to sell rocks.
スーパーの実演販売でもやればウケそうですよ。怪しい万能包丁とか売りつける仕事に向いてそうですよね。
Absolutely stunned at my successful pitch, the guy manning the stall next to this one called out to me.
おいおい兄ちゃんたち、うちのあんず飴も頼むよ。
よし、要領はつかめただろう。今度はレナが行け。
よーし、頑張るよ。はうー、あんず飴が冷えててとっても美味しいんだよ。水飴の上にね、ちょこんってあんずが乗ってるの。はうー、かわいいね。お持ち帰り。はうー。
It looks like she lost herself in this midway through, but a girl giving it such natural praise was itself bringing in some customers. A line was quickly forming behind Rena.
今度はお好み焼き屋だ。さとこ行け。
焼きそばに揚げ玉入りでカリカリなのがとっても美味しいでございますわね。大きなベーコンが丸ごと敷いてあって、かじるとほらピローンって出てきて、はっはっは。
That sounds so
お
good.
お、うまいうまい。それなら俺も食ってみたくなる。
Then a huge line formed at my words. What on earth is this? So basically, all these onlookers are just following us around to all the stands.
みんなのを聞いてから食べると、いつもよりずっと美味しく感じるからなのですよ。
So that's it. Even Rika-chan was gorging herself on the food, getting sauce on the bib she'd put on to prevent the Shrine Maiden outfit from getting dirty.
よし、おじさんも盛り上がってきたよ。よしケイちゃん、私はどれだ。
よっしゃ、ミオはさらにその隣の露店へ行け。ミオンの底力を見せてみろ。
あれ？でも圭一くん、お隣のお店は。
A goldfish scooping stand. Also, hey Ellie, thanks for stopping by. A bit out of our element.
いや、部活の部長たるもの、
Oh my
相手が
God.
なんでやれ逃げられないね。
So we went from praising a takoyaki stand to one that sold sweets to one that sold yakisoba. And now Mion has to somehow sell everyone on a goldfish scooping stand, which if you don't know, assuming it's this type, you have like this huge you'll have like a huge, God, like what would it be? Like a container full of fish, goldfish, and then you're given like a small little, I don't know, like a paper fan or like a paper scoop. And you're supposed to try to catch goldfish with that, which is insane. It's insanely difficult. But if you do, obviously you keep the fish.
やってみるよ。
And also King Big, thanks so much for the follow. I really appreciate it.
ミオンさんのお手並み、拝見でございますわ。
And thanks again, Essence, for stopping by. The onlookers were also watching Mion with hopeful eyes.
いらっしゃい。はいよ。アミットワン。
よし、やるぞ。
Unless this is one of those where if you catch a goldfish, you get a prize. It's either you keep the goldfish or... Because it depends on how they do it. Like, some fairs will have a goldfish, which if you catch it, obviously you keep it. And then you have another one where some of the goldfish like are bigger than others, or they'll be marked in some way, shape, or form, and they're tied to like some prize. But let's see what happens.
金魚はみんな生きがいいね。実に美味しそう。この小さいのなんかそのままボリボリと生でいけちゃうよね。
Mion, what the fuck are you saying, dude?
ミオンさんは何を言ってるんでございますの？みーちゃん食べてたの？去年レナからもらったのも食べちゃったの？
Oh, no.
違う。私そんなこと言ってない。
Mion's face went red, and she shook it vehemently in denial.
いやでも今ミオンお前自分で言ったぞ。実に美味しそうだって。
ええ、確かに言いました。
My bad.
お姉って雑食ですから口に入れば何でも食べちゃうんです。
美味しいなら今度僕も試してみるのです。ダメだよリカちゃん、お腹壊しちゃうよ。
I don't think you're supposed to eat goldfish. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to. Wait a second. Hey, what the hell? Shion, how long have you been standing there? Or have you been here?
はーい、ケイちゃんにお姉にみんなこんばんは。あんたどこから湧いてきたのしよう。焼きそば屋さんの時からずっとです。
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed throughout the playthrough, but anytime that Mion yells out, it sounds a little muffled, where it's kind of low. But I'm pretty sure that's intentional, because otherwise her line would be like peaking like crazy.
お姉たちは騒がしいからすぐに見つけられました。もうあんたは関係ないでしょ。早くどっかへ消えなさいよ。もうお姉もあまり私を邪険にしないでくださいね。ケイちゃん、私が一緒でもいいですよね。
Oh. She asked, grabbing my arm and pushing her chest into it.
ケイチくん、鼻血出てるよ。
ところてんを押したらニューって出てくるだろ。あれと同じだ。これは抗いようのない現象なんだよ。
へえ、そうなんですか。じゃあ力を入れたらもっと出てくるかな。ぎゅっ。
Oh no. Shion's her cleavage, it's right up against my chest. Oh no. Keiichi, what are you doing?
あんたこら何やってんの。
不潔ですわ。見損ないましたよ。僕の平らなお胸ではどうなのです？
Rika-chan clasped onto my other arm too. A plentiful, plump feeling on my left shoulder and the sour sensation of a young, unripe... Oh no, Keiichi, you can't be saying these words. Oh my fucking god. Shion, Rika-chan, and I, our faces now bruised, fell to the ground, limbs sprawled.
よくやったレナ。
みんな不潔なんだよ。レナに殴られたのです。
Oh
痛い
no.
のですよ。リカは自業自得でしたよ。
Sheesh. Now that Shion was here, the energy around us had increased by 120%.
お姉の友達は実に愉快です。退屈しないな。ああ、そう。あんたさえいなくなればもっと愉快なんだけどね。もっと一緒にいたいけど、あんまりケイちゃんを誘惑すると本当にお姉に噛みつかれちゃいそうです。だから私一時退却しますね。また来ます。じゃあね、お姉。二度と来るな。塩負けしよう。
After teasing her older sister so much, Shion ran away into the crowd of people and disappeared.
なんだか珍しいミオンさんを見た気がしますわ。しーちゃんが一緒だとみーちゃんなんだかかわいいね。
Rena smiled happily, earning her a whack on the head from Mion.
アホなこと言ってんじゃないよ。次行くよ、次。
We went about just like that, really noisy and lively to the other stands. We were paying money towards the beginning, but midway through, the guys running the shops thought we were just too funny, and we ended up being able to fool around without paying much more. The vigorous sound of a big taiko drum echoed through the air.
リカ、そろそろ時間みたいでございましたよ。あ、いよいよなんだね。
Right. It's just about time for Rika-chan to appear in the offertory dance.
ちょっとドキドキしてるのです。
信じなって、自分を。リカちゃんが流してきた汗は、絶対に無駄になんかならないから。
Mion slapped Rika-chan's back. Slapped hard on. Sounds
リカは
weird.
きっとやり遂げますわ。頑張るのですよ。その息だよ。
I ball my hand into a fist and raise it into the air.
応援してるぞリカちゃん。ファイトオンだぜ。
Rika-chan gave the best smile I had ever seen, then pivoted on her heel and ran off.
じゃあ私たちも行こうよ。
そうだな。応援してやろうぜ。
Now, do remember, there are, console, like, bits of art for these entire scenes, right? Even with the backgrounds and everything. But since we did this for Chapter 1, I'm not really going to show them off unless we get some new character. Because otherwise, there's no point.
ダメですのよ。
Because we've seen these backgrounds, even with the console backgrounds. Actually, I'm not sure if we've seen this one specifically. So let's quickly check it. There's a... she, like, phases out for a little bit. But yeah, we've seen this specific background as well. Because you can see the takoyaki stand in the background, the choco banana one as well, and I think the yakisoba one on the left. So we've seen these backgrounds as well before.
演舞中は静かにしていないといけませんでございますわよ。
I got it, jeez. I rubbed a hand through her hair. She was so worried about her good friend up to the end.
なら急いで行かないと。いい場所がなくなっちゃうよ。行こう。
Mion ran off and everyone else followed moments later. A large amount of people had already clustered into the tight space to watch the edifying dance.
こりゃすごい人出だな。
I turned around to look at everyone else, but nobody was there. Where'd everyone go? He probably got lost among all these people. Finally, I spotted the back of Mion's head on the other side of the crowd. It definitely doesn't look like I can get over there. Well, we got separated, no big deal. We can just meet back up when Rika-chan's dance is over. I gave up on finding the others and wandered around trying to look for a place where I'd be able to see better. It didn't take long for me to realize I'd have to settle for watching between the heads of the people in front of me, though. Once again, an even louder taiko drum resounded. This one was to announce the beginning of the dance. I couldn't see very well, but it seemed like Rika-chan had come on stage with the elders, who were in priestly garb. I heard low exhalations of admiration and the seniors rubbing their prayer beads in gratitude. Everyone's heads were in the way, and I couldn't see. It was really frustrating. We should have cut playtime short and come here to get good spots earlier. After Rika-chan intoned the prayer, she took the festival hoe and walked to the pile of quilts stacked on the altar. That's right. The point of the ceremony was to purify bedding and to hold a memorial service, wasn't it? Then the solemn offertory dance began. She had practiced using a mochi-pounding mallet. The awkwardly shaped festival hoe Rika-chan held seemed really heavy. Back and forth, up and down, it was doubtlessly difficult to even lift in the air, but she sweated and waved, raised and dropped it again and again. She couldn't just deal with it and do it grudgingly. As a shrine maiden, she needed to retain the dignity and solemnity present at this festival. There must be a ton of pressure on Rika-chan's shoulders right now. Damn, why am I cheering her on from a place I can barely see her? I'm her friend, so I should be right up in the best spot rooting for her.
ケイちゃん、こっちこっち。
Someone tugged lightly on the back of my shirt collar. It was Shion. She beckoned me outside of the crowd, outside the crowded ring of people. She had a mischievous grin on her face, and I took it as her saying she knew a good place nobody else knew of.
シオンなんだなんだ
黙ってついてきてくださいね。
After she told me so, she ran in a big detour around the throng. And it's great to have someone who knows the lay of the land here at times like this. Impressed though I was, I nearly lost sight of her right away. No more getting separated for me. I ran after her so that I wouldn't be left behind. As I wondered in anticipation what kind of secret spot Shion had in mind, we left the crowd of people and went around to the back of the shrine grounds.
おいおいどこ行くんだよこれじゃあどんどん離れちゃってるぞ
黙ってついてくればわかりますから。
Shion gave me a wink and reminded me, a wink that reminded me of Shion as she said that. No sign of people and not much moonlight. It was dark. We had gotten pretty far away from the crowd of people on the shrine grounds. How are we supposed to see Rika-chan's dance from here?
そっかどこか高いところがあるんだな
Oh, Keiichi, you're so fucking stupid.
屋根の上とかそういうところから見下ろそうって言うんだろ
はい？なんで屋根に登んなくちゃいけないんです？
だってそうじゃなかったらどうやってリカちゃんの演舞を見るんだよ
リカちゃまの演舞なんか見たかったんですか？ケイちゃん、ひょっとしてストライクゾーンものすごく低くありません？
Oh, no.
なんだか話が微妙に噛み合わないぞお前は俺をリカちゃんの演舞がよく見える場所に案内してくれるんじゃないのか
はい？誰もそんな約束してませんよ。
Oh, Keiichi, you fucking idiot. What's going on? Why me? Why do I always misunderstand Shion? Is it my fault? Am I just reading the wrong things into it?
じゃあお前は俺をなんでこんなところに呼び出したんだよ
With an expression that indicated she wasn't fooling around, Shion pressed her index finger to my lips and said slowly and quietly, This place is a dark, dead, empty spot. You can't see it from the festival grounds, and now a male and female of the same age are all alone together. Hey? Could this be Shion? She's not planning something crazy again, is she?
あれを見てください。ほら。
Have we seen this pose of hers? Yeah, it's her with her finger up. Shion whispered, pointing into the dark underbrush. And there we saw two figures, one male and one female.
なんだありゃまさか
相敵の生現場に決まってるじゃないですか。ほらほら、よく見てください。あれ、誰だかわかります？
I peered intently into the dark at Shion's suggestion. Oh, it's Tomitaka-san and Takano-san. So hey Moon, thanks for stopping by. Just type in something and I'll time you out again. The two of them were clearly breathing quietly and glancing around to make sure nobody knew that they were there, as they crouched before the entrance to a wooden storehouse-like building.
まさかシオンこれを見せたくて俺を呼んだのか
Alright, here goes. There you go.
ケイちゃん、リカちゃまの演舞は毎年見られるけど、こういうのは二度とお目にかかれませんよ。
I had thought the Sonozaki sisters each had their own personalities, but at times like this, they seemed all too similar.
俺は帰るぞ二度とこんなのに呼ぶなよな
今動いたらバレちゃいますって。
At our noisy argument, Takano-san suddenly turned around.
あらあら、どなたかしら？
We held our breaths and tried to wait it out, but it seemed like Takano-san was now acutely aware of our presence. Hey, Cornwall. Thanks so much for stopping by. And thanks so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. Shion and I exchanged glances, then gave up and climbed out from behind the bush.
どうもこんばんは。お月様の綺麗ないい夜ですね。
あらあら、しおんちゃんに前原くんじゃない。こんばんは。月の綺麗な夜ね。
おやおや、圭一君も隅に置けないね。こんなところで相引きかい？だとしたら、僕たちとんでもないお邪魔をしちゃったかな。
Yeah, a night of youth, of all things. You're the ones who were meeting up secretly. Tomitake-san and Takano-san laughed to themselves, and it got on my nerves for some reason.
ってことは、富武さんたちは相引きしてたってわけじゃないみたいですね。
それはもちろん違うよ。そういうロマンスも嫌いじゃないけどね。
Have we seen her smile before? I think we had, but just in case.
残念だけど、あなたたちが覗き見したくなるような相引き現場じゃないのよ。
Meant to go back to this.
期待に添えなくて申し訳ないわね。
相引き現場じゃなかったら何してるんですか？富武さん、今扉の南京錠をいじってませんでした？
Uh-oh. Huh? After she said that, I looked at the two of them again, and I definitely saw it. They were hunched in front of the warehouse door, fiddling with a pretty heavy-looking padlock.
バレちゃしょうがないな。僕たちが倉庫破りをしてたなんて内緒だよ。
内緒って、それ、泥棒ってことですか？
Yeah, they're fucking thieves. I demanded unthinkingly just because of how absently Tomitake-san was grinning.
やあね。泥棒ってのは物を盗む人たちのことでしょ。別に私たちは物を持ち出そうとしているわけじゃないのよ。
へえ。じゃあ何のために鍵開けなんかしてるんですか？ここ、開かずの西宮殿ですよね。古出家とほんの一握りの人間しか入ることが許されないっていう。
Oh no. Forbidden storehouse. I took a few steps back at that and looked on the entire warehouse. It certainly looked like one built removed from any signs of people, almost as if in secret. I believe this is the shrine from the start of the game, like when we first load it up. This is technically what you see. Let's check the console background for this. Yeah, it's the exact same one, but it's in it's nighttime now instead of daytime. And again, I'm trying not to look at the kanji beneath the guard lion dogs, just so as to possibly not recognize any of them and translate them, because I don't want it spoiled. But this is what it looks like from the console version, and then back to the original image, where even though there is kanji technically on the dogs, you can't really see them because it's so blurry, right, due to the style of the backgrounds in this game. It was filthy, revealing how little it was ever opened, and it was built to be durable, giving it a strange, overpowering impression. Now that I looked at it more closely, it was certainly different than normal warehouses.
ここはね、西宮殿といってね、西宮をしまっている倉庫なの。いえ、西宮を祀っている神殿と言ってもいいかもしれないわね。リカちゃんが奉納演舞で使っている祭事用の桑も、今日までこの中にしまわれていたものよ。もちろん、古出家の人間以外は、汚れを持ち込むから、立ち入り禁止の不可侵領域。
Right.
聖域なの。
Shouldn't we absolutely not be coming to a place like this then? However, Takano was wearing a childlike expression. An innocent smile at best, and a terribly cruel grin at worst.
私、ひなみ沢の昔語りや伝承を趣味で研究してるって言ったわよね。私の知的興味のさまざまな答えがこの中に詰まってるの。この中に入れるチャンスを今日までずっと待ってたんだから。
Chance. Everybody's eyes were fixed on the dance on the shrine grounds today. This was the ultimate blind spot.
へえ。富武さんに鍵開けの技術があるなんて知りませんでした。
あ、よしてくれよ。僕だっていやいややってるんだよ。
付き合わせてしまってごめんなさいね。でも二郎さんのおかげよ。感謝してるわ。
やれやれ。でも高野さん、こういうのはこれっきりにしてくれよ。こういうところに黙って入り込むのはやっぱり気が引けるよ。
やっぱり二郎さんはいい人ね。
Clink. Tomitake-san undid the padlock and placed it to the side.
開いたよ。
ありがとう。いよいよね。
Takano-san gulped. With an unusually excited air about her, she gave the heavy door a shove. The sharp smell of mold and dust flowed out from the gap in the doors. I had claimed curses didn't exist, but in this situation, I could believe in them. If we went into such a holy place with our shoes on, it feels like we would be punished somehow. So remember, before this event, before the entire Watanagashi that we're in right now, the festival, last night we met up with both of them, and they told us, you know, some stories about what the hell was going on, where every night on this festival, someone is killed and someone disappears out of nowhere. We were then told about Oyashiro-sama, which is the guardian deity of the small village that we're in, which has like 1,000 people in it, and how the locals believe that it's his curse that's causing all of this, that people end up dying because of Oyashiro-sama's curse, right? And the person that goes missing is usually bound and tied up, then thrown into the local swamp in a very specific and meticulously crafted method where the body will take about 3 days to reach the bottom of the presumably endless swamp to slowly appease the rage of Oyashiro-sama, specifically on this day of the Watanagashi. So it's kind of crazy that she wants to find out more about the local folklore on this specific day of all days. So we'll see what happens.
どう？あなたたちも共犯なんだし。
Are we?
せっかくだから一緒に見学しない？ひなみ沢の皮脂を埋める貴重な文化遺産の見物会よ。今日だけの限定会館。
別に俺たち共犯ってわけじゃ。
面白いと思いません？ねえ、覗いてみましょうよ。
Shion said predictively, linking her arm with mine.
でもこれは絶対いけないことだよ。神聖な倉庫なんだろ？西宮殿って言ったっけ？ますます勝手に入っちゃまずいよ。
私は一応園崎の人間ですから、この中にあるものはおおよそ想像がついてます。でもそれはケイちゃんにも見てもらいたいものです。
俺に見てもらいたいもの？
I thought it was just some ploy, or just a ploy, but Shion's eyes looked entirely serious. Of course, she was the sort who would lie with a straight face. Of course, I was an average boy too. My curiosity was at least twice that of a normal person. Sleeping, forbidden treasures, never to leave this warehouse. Chances like this don't come around too often. If I had to choose, then I want to see. Until the locked door is open, though, I don't know about this.
面白くないって思ったら、 ケイちゃんはすぐに出ればいいです。きっと興味を惹かれると思いますけどね。
Tomitaka-san spoke after listening to our discussion, himself having sat down on the stairs to take a short rest.
僕がここで見張っててあげるから、一緒に見てきてごらん。僕はあまり趣味じゃないけど、ケイチ君みたいな若い男の子には結構面白いかもしれないよ。
He said, laughing mischievously. There was no ill will in his
富武さん
laughter.
はこの中に何があるのか知ってるんですか？
まあね、高野さんにたっぷり聞かされてるからね。
Oh no.
相方の特殊な趣味に付き合わされる殿方も大変ですね。
Tomitaka-san didn't answer that, only responding with a pained smile. Takano-san had this kind of scary air about her, like she'd drop absolutely everything else for something she had an interest in and go straight for it. But Tomitaka-san, on the other hand, seemed like the gold standard of what a normal person should be. Having him tell me so frankly to go check it out suddenly made the guilt feel lighter.
じゃあ、ちょっとだけな。面白くなかったらすぐ出るぞ。
You got it. Shion gave me another Mion-like wink.
決まったみたいね。じゃあ、行きましょうか。二郎さん、留守番をお願いね。
Oh boy. Tomitaka-san waved his hand to see us off. The inside was pitch black, but Takano-san turned on the battery-powered lantern she brought, revealing a pretty cramped front room. So we haven't seen this background at all before. Here's the roof, or the ceiling, I should say. And there it is again with the console art.
真っ暗だね。みんな転ばないように気をつけるんだよ。
ご心配ありがとう。じゃあ、門番をよろしくね。ここ、閉めるわよ。
Takano-san smiled spitefully as if leaving Tomitaka-san out of something fun, and began to close the door.
やれやれ。じゃあみんな、ゆっくり楽しんでおいで。
There was a low, heavy, and loud noise, and we were completely cut off from the outside world, and covered in silent darkness. Takano-san's lantern was the only light we had.
大丈夫よ。予備電池も入ってるアウトドア仕様なんだから。消えたりなんかしないわよ。
And then this is another new background. So we'll check that out real quick. Here it is with the console style. Oh no, she's shifting. Wait. There we go. Man, this looks very interesting. Alright, back to the original BGs. Because sometimes they will, like, kind of break the sprites if we swap backgrounds, like, mid, like, conversation or something. Looks like Takano noticed my uneasy expression. I couldn't help but blush a little and avert my gaze. Deeper inside, there was a heavy and old but sturdy door with solemn decorations on it. It was the last door sealing away what was within.
ただの倉庫なのに前室があるなんて変わってるでしょ。一度に1枚ずつ扉を出入りさせることによって西宮殿の中が外に見えないようにする工夫だと考えられるわね。
Takano-san explained this, awfully impressed by the construction. But still, it's really dark in here. Huh? That over there, I spotted a circuit breaker hanging from a clump of wiring clumsily attached to the wall.
これ、明かりのブレーカーか何かじゃないですか？
I don't think we should turn that on, Keiichi. I flipped the biggest switch I can find, and with a click, the pitch black room was illuminated by an old bare light bulb. Everyone scrunched up their faces at the sudden strobe-like brightness.
ダメです。
Before she even finished, Shion slapped my hand and flipped the switch back. There was another loud click, and the room returned to darkness with only the lantern for illumination.
いてててて。
ダメです、ケイちゃん。
Oh, she's mad. The console art is so cute. It's so cute.
私たち、ここに忍び込んでるんですよ。
Yeah, you don't want to like turn on the lights and let everyone know that you're fucking in here. In like the holiest of holy sheds in a village where tonight of all nights, someone is going to die and someone is going to go missing.
明かりなんかつけたら、バレちゃうかもしれないじゃないですか。
I'm scolded by Shion fairly harshly. It looked like she was worried about whether someone had seen them from the momentary light.
大丈夫よ。本当に一瞬だし。
Takuno-san remained a relaxed adult. It seemed like she was confident she could walk her way out of... Sorry. It seemed like she was confident she could talk her way out of it if someone did see us.
入りましょう。よいしょっと。
The even heavier door opened, and this time it wasn't just dust that came out with the air. There was also a nasty smell. One smell was like opening a dust-filled cupboard in the back of a kitchen that hadn't been opened in years. And the other smell, the nasty one, was hard to explain, but it was like the raw odor of a fish market. From how the sound echoed, this room felt far larger than the first. Takano-san held up her lantern and revealed the contents of the expansive room. At the back wall of the storehouse, right in front of us, was a Buddha-like holy object standing there looking down at us. I was taken aback by its unseen force, lit up by the slender beam of the lantern.
あれがひなみ沢の守り神、お社様よ。
Oh. Do we finally get to see what Oyashiro-sama looks like? Anyways, this is the regular background. And then here's the console background. And she's shifting again. Oh my god. Well, the console background certainly adds a lot more to the scene. And it makes you wonder why they need all of this. Holy shit. Because remember, this is a warehouse full of all of the holy artifacts of the village, right? And there is what appears to be a coffin with a human silhouette. There appears to be... What is that? It's like a board with nails or like a piece of steel with like spikes on it. The top of a trident. Then you have a millstone or a grindstone next to it. There's like a pedal to spin the wheel. And there's chains attached to it. Right above that is a giant instrument that has a blade attached to it and a handle. So that's probably to dismember or to cut things. You have cages. And then right next to that is like a rack. Like one used for torturing. Where you can chain the arms to the sides. And then have that bit of steel like around the neck. And there's more stuff in the background. And then we have the statue of what appears to be Oyashiro-sama. And what else is there? To the right we've got, or to the middle, we have what appear to be like clamps. You know, the ones that they used to put on, I don't remember the specific name, but in the Middle Ages, or well, even after that, if you would like steal or something, and you would get caught, you would get punished in the, you know, the central square in some societies, and they would put two pieces. They would put your hands and head in between two pieces of wood, and they would lock them in place, and they would parade you around the town or the village as people would mock you, insult you, throw things at you, and then they would like bring you back to the town square, and your punishment was to like wait it out for like a day, right? Or for however long they wanted you to wait it out. I can't remember the name of that instrument because I haven't thought of that word in fucking years, but that's what it appears to be. What else do we have? We've got more tools in the background. and then more what appear to be like farming tools to the far right. And then there appears to be some blocks that might be like weights, like type of weights that you put on someone, probably as torture as well. Like if they get chained up and they have weights attached to their limbs, either to like torture them, for them to constantly feel something tugging at their leg, or for them to over time like have their legs pop out of like their sockets or something. Crazy stuff. But anyway, back to the normal backgrounds and back to the story. Sorry about that.
社にあるのよりずっと立派ですね。
Oyashiro-sama. So this is the spirit protecting Hinamizawa. The one guarding the holy land of Hinamizawa from the impurities of the outside world, and the one delivering punishment after punishment upon those who attempt to sully the land with their damn construction. Right.
想像してたよりたくさんの細具が収められているようね。でも残念。どれもあまり手入れがされていないわ。状態が悪いのが悔やまれるわね。
And once again, as a reminder, the reason why all these killings started was because there was a construction project started to basically have a dam be built somewhere near the village that we're currently in. And once that dam was constructed, it was going to flood the entire village. Obviously, the villagers fought back, which then resulted in the first murder, in which the dam director was pinned down and dismembered. All his limbs were cut off, his head was cut off, and then all of his pieces, like all of his body parts, were scattered and never found. Well, all were found except for one, which was like the right or the left arm, I forget which. And well, now we're finding this. Even in the dim light, I could see a lot of strange objects lining the walls, ceilings, and shelves. So once again, here's the background, just as is. And then let's try to get a look at the background once again without any of the characters in it. Oh, we didn't see the mallet before. Oh my god. Is that a mallet? It might be a tool, it might be a handle. Like a giant handle for something. Who knows? But here's the image without any characters on it. Takano-san, speaking as if in a trance, was infatuated by the various implements filling the dark room. They weren't very festival-like or traditional, but instead, this was more like a workshop of a blacksmith or a carpenter. There were lots of large wooden and metal tools packed in here. Putting it bluntly, it was all pretty boring stuff. I'd imagine there would be more artistic things in here, from the Heian period, but these are a far cry from being cultural artifacts. My expression betrayed my dashed hopes, and they caught on right away.
あら、面白くないかしら？
俺は文系でも美術系でもないんで、
Keiji.
あんまりこういうのを見てもよく価値がわからないです。
圭一くんはよくわかってないみたいね。無理もないけれど。
Takano-san reached into a paper bag that she'd been holding on to the whole time, took out a worn scrapbook and began to flip
じ
through
ゃ
it.
あ、圭一くんのために昔話でも聞かせてあげようかしら。この地方では一般的な昔話よ。図書館に行けば、教育委員会推薦の本にも載ってるくらいにね。
Telling stories in such a dark, creepy place? She must have a horror story in mind. Shion's face belied nothing but calm. If she had the same personality as Mion, she'd have found fault with me being scared. I'll endure it for now and pretend to be calm.
いい？じゃあ、読むわよ。
Right, here goes. After confirming that I was going to be quiet and listen, she began to speak softly, like a kindergarten teacher reading a picture book.
昔々、ある山奥の村にね、その沼はね、底なしの深い深い沼でね、 地の底の鬼の国につながっていたんですって。
The rumors said that it was deeper than the ocean and that anyone it swallowed would sink into the underworld, a bottomless swamp. Its name was Onigafchi. Wait. I thought back to the story I heard yesterday about the sacrifices sinking into the bottomless swamp. Could it be that the swamp she's talking about, or could this be the swamp she's talking about?
その村はひなみ沢ですね。
察しがいいわね。そうよ。当時は鬼ヶ淵村って呼ばれてたけどね。
鬼ヶ淵村。物騒な響きのある名前だな。
イメージもあったんでしょうね。明治の頃に今の名前に改称されたって聞きました。
The name of the swamp connected to hell was called Onigafchi, which meant the demon abyss. And that was the name of this village. The Demon's Abyss Village. And the true name of this village, Hinamizawa, was Onigafchi Village.
村人たちは鬼の国、つまりは地獄のことね。鬼の国とつながるという沼を崇めながら過ごしてきたの。でもね、ある日のこと。
Let's look at the background real quick. I'm not sure if this is a CG or if it's a background, but I think it might be CG, since backgrounds are completely different. But here we have, well, one of them, right? Demons began to appear, one after the other, from deep in the swamp. The villagers feared that hell was overflowing. The demons mercilessly attacked the villagers. They could only watch in fear. They could do no more than hide themselves and tremble.
で、誰かが鬼を退治するわけですか？
Exterminate.
残念だけど、このお話には桃太郎みたいな正義の味方は登場しないわ。
じゃあ、村を挙げて戦うわけですか？
まさか。村人たちに鬼と互角に戦える力などあるわけもない。
じゃあ、村を捨てて逃げるしかないですよね。
それも無理ね。村人たちにとっても、村は大切な郷里だったから。どんな恐ろしい鬼が攻めてきたからといって、簡単に逃げ出せるはずもなかったのよ。
じゃあ、どうするんですか？滅びるしかないじゃないですか。
Unable to fight and unable to run, all they could do was wait for the village to be destroyed. Then, when everyone had lost hope, their god, Oyashiro-sama, descended onto them.
なるほど。つまり、天からやってきたお社様が鬼たちをやっつけるわけですか。
ケイちゃんは男の子ですね。すぐに腕力で解決する方に走るんですから。
Shion sighed, a little annoyed. Embarrassed, I held my tongue.
お社様はね、やっつけるとか、そういう暴力的な神様じゃなかったの。もっと優しい、慈愛のある神様だったの。
The strength of Oyashiro-sama descended from the heavens. The strength of Oyashiro-sama descended from the heavens couldn't be compared to that of the demons. Mind you, the word that they're using here for demons is more like ogres, right? They mean specifically like oni, which are, well, like Japanese ogres, which I've mentioned a few times already. But the closest adjacent, right, would be, or they choose to translate it as demons. They didn't even fight. They simply prostrated themselves before his radiant authority. Oyashiro-sama urged them to go back to the underworld from whence they came, but the demons wept and challenged him, saying they could never return.
鬼たちの世界にも厳しい戒律があってね。彼らは地獄を追放された鬼たちだったんですって。
ogres who didn't have a place to go, neither in the underworld nor in the human world. Of course, they were at fault for attacking the village. They deeply reflected on it and were sorry.
村人たちも話を聞くうちに少しずつ気の毒になっていったわ。それでね、村のみんなで話し合った結果、鬼たちと一緒に住むことを決めたの。
対峙するとか追っ払うっていう昔話は多いけど、共存ってのは確かに珍しいですね。
ですよね。鬼ってのは元来諸悪の象徴のはず。それとの共存を決めたというお話なんだから、本当に変わってます。
When the ogres first heard the villagers' invitation, they doubted their ears but soon burst into tears of joy. The villagers had given them a place to live. It was said that in payment for this good deed, the ogres shared their many kinds of powers and secrets with the villagers.
お社様はその微笑ましい交流をとても喜んでね、鬼たちが村人と分け隔てなく暮らせるよう人間の姿を与えたんですって。そして自らも地上にとどまり、末永く両者の交流を見守ることにしたんだそうよ。
A land in which man, ogre, and god lived together. I had thought the word ogre was a noun meaning evil that needs to be exterminated. A god may have mediated for them, but you don't often hear happy endings like that where both sides live in harmony. I see. I guess it is kind of interesting.
普通のおとぎ話ならここで終わりなんだけどね。このお話は江戸時代にだいぶ加筆されたみたいで、まだまだ続く随分と長い話になってるわ。
After that, the humans and ogres intermixed, and eventually there was no difference between them.
鬼の存在は結局村に溶け込んで消えてしまったということですか。
Oh, Keiichi. They never left.
いいえ。消えたりなんかしないです。半分はしっかりと残ってたそうですよ。
The knowledge the villagers had received from the ogres basically made them into something inhuman. What people call transcendent. They were well aware the power they had was heresy. And as those below worshipped them, they lived out their lives in secrecy.
このお話がね、その後に派生するたくさんの昔話、フィクションだからこのお話がある意味基礎中の基礎、ベーシックね。
原点ってどういう意味ですか？
村人たちは鬼の血を引いているという部分ですね。つまりこの辺りに伝わる様々な伝承や昔話は全部その村の人たちは鬼の血を引いているというのが前提になっているんです。
There was a hint of amusement in Shion's face as she said that. It was like she wanted to say that she too had ogre blood in her. Is there any proof though? Maybe it's somehow rooted in historical fact beyond just fairy
あ
tales.
ら、じゃあ前原くんは沼から鬼が現れて人間と交わったっていうのは本当にあった出来事だって信じてるのかしら？
信じないわけじゃないんですけど。
When she said ogre, she meant the ones from the underworld, but in ancient Japan, the word wasn't necessarily used to denote only that kind, right? The more well-known use involves the drifting foreigner theory. As the story goes, Westerners who were shipwrecked in nearby seas had such markedly different customs that they were called demons or ogres. Japanese people were relatively similar in appearance to other Asians, but everything about those from the West was different: their physiques, their faces, and their skin color. In Japan, terms like red ogre and blue ogre evoked images especially of Westerners. Lacking in skin pigments, Westerners would sunburn easily and turn red. Being fair-skinned, I think blood vessels appearing on their skin would look blue too. A handful of accidental aliens would drift into Japan and come under persecution, being called ogres. They would flee into the mountains to survive, turn into bandit groups, and attack villages for food and the like. This I didn't know.
なんて
If
説はど
real.
うでしょう。
If this is actually true, because I mean, some of this stuff might actually be real. I don't mean the the villages existing with with ancient customs of breeding with ogres, but this regarding like shipwrecked Westerners, if that is an actual thing, then that's pretty crazy, because I never really bothered to look into like Oni lore and how they came to be, but anyway.
ちょっと子供じみてますかね。
Takano gave me a weird smile when, having come up with such an impromptu hypothesis, I unconsciously followed it up with self-depreciation. Still, she didn't smile as if to make fun of me.
別におかしくないわよ。実際に漂流偉人説を唱える人もいるもの。でも実際はどうなのかは誰にもわからない。
Interesting.
山賊化した偉人の集団だったのか、本当に地の底から来た鬼たちだったのかね。
じゃあ、高野さんはどっちを信じてるんですか？
真相は別にして、夢のある方を信じたいわね。その方が面白いでしょ。
Her answer made her sound a wee bit like a romanticist. Here I thought she'd reject unrealistic stories like that.
さて、いよいよここからよ。面白くなるのは。
Takano-san brought an end to her storytelling and waits for a moment as if to tantalize us.
Huh?
Suddenly, Shion looked around as if something had caught her eye. Her head bobbed to and fro like she was making sure nothing had changed.
どうしたシオン？
ごめんなさい。気にしないでください。
Shion pretended as though nothing had happened. Takano-san also made sure nothing had happened, then cleared her throat and broached the next subject.
村人たちに半分鬼の血が流れてるのは話したわね。実はその血なんだけど、鬼は鬼でも人食い鬼の血なんだって言われてるの。
人食い鬼ですか？急に物騒な響きになりましたね。
その血は今でも村人たちには脈々と流れていてね。時折その血が眠りを覚ますと言われているわ。
I thought the fairy tale had a happy ending with the humans and demons living in peace. But it began to suddenly change into a brutal, bloody story.
人食い鬼だから何十年かに一度どうしても人肉が食べたくて仕方がなくなる周期があるんですって。だからって村人同士で共食いするわけにはいかない。だから彼らはその度に人里へ降り鬼隠しをしたと伝えられてるわ。
I'm sure they're gonna explain it here, but once again, Onikakashi is demoned away, while the other term that's normally used is spirited away. When some forest spirit or something finds someone that's lost in the middle of the woods, they are taken to some fairy realm or to a spirit world, right? And they are spirited away. And then Onikakashi is demoned away, which is when a quote-unquote demon comes after you and takes you.
何ですか？鬼隠しって。
Yeah, they're about to explain it.
平たく言えば鬼たちによる誘拐行為よ。
The reason I explained it first is because we've been told this before, especially in the last chapter.
鬼ヶ淵村の村人たちが人里に押し寄せ、哀れな生贄を無理やり力ずくでさらったんですって。
Takano-san's explanation was plain and simple, but when I imagined what it must have been like, it was terrifying. They lose their human reason. The villagers turn into real ogres en masse. They attack the villages they loathe in the dirty world of the masses below. And then they kill and eat their sacrifices.
それじゃあ鬼と何ら変わりないじゃないですか。お社様はどうしたんです？その村にとどまって 人々を見守ってるんじゃなかったでしたっけ？
もちろんお社様も了承してたそうよ。だから鬼隠しは無差別ではなく、神様が決めた生贄以外には誰もさらわなかったらしいし、ほとんどの場合は一人か二人だったって記されてるわね。
A village inhabited by those both human and inhuman. It was like the heartwarming episode's colors had inverted, like negative film, revealing the painful and ugly truth.
そうして生贄をさらってきた夜にはね、哀れな犠牲者をおいしくいただくため、綿流しの儀式が開かれたというわ。
Watanagashi. Tonight's festival was Watanagashi. I just couldn't reconcile the fun festival with the horrible tale Takano-san was telling me.
綿流しは確か冬の間に使った布団なんかに感謝するお祭りじゃなかったでしたっけ？
ケイちゃん、綿って言いません？
Oh, because wata means cotton. Let's see if they put it in quotes here. They did not, but I'm pretty sure it's right there in that final sentence.
臓物のこと。
Ah. Shion, who had been silent until now, spoke up.
綿？そういえば言うな。魚の綿っていう。え？
Like a jigsaw puzzle, the fun times I had today and Takano-san's grotesque tale clicked together in my mind.
綿流し。
Yeah. I didn't think saying that could ever feel so nauseating.
そう、前原くんの想像している通りよ。今でこそ綿流しは毎年6月に行われるちょっと早い夏祭りに過ぎないけど、哀れな食材をさらってきた夜にだけ開かれた凄惨な人食いの宴のことだったの。
嘘だ。
No real reason to say that, but I couldn't help it.
前原くんはさっき綿流しは布団を清める儀式だと言ったわね。綿が詰まった布団って何を意味してると思うかしら？
Exactly.
布団は布団だろ。寝具。寝るための道具だよ。
Keep going.
他に何の意味があるんだよ。
I was rattling on, desperately attempting to deny the horrible festival that Takano-san was describing. Deep down, however, I found myself understanding all too well what she meant. Futons stuffed with cotton. If the cotton represents entrails in both pronunciations and meaning, then the entrail-filled futons would have to be
で
humans.
は、リカちゃんがやった奉納演舞を思い出してちょうだい。
Right, I was about to mention this, but I'm like, you know what, they're probably gonna explain it.
リカちゃんがあそこで何をしていたか。
わからねえよ。第一、リカちゃんの演舞は最後までちゃんと見てないし。
ケイちゃん、エキサイトしすぎです。
Excito. Did they use the katakana for it? They did. Shion grabbed one of my ears, reminding me that this wasn't somewhere I should raise my voice. Even so, I still can't suppress this agitation I feel.
リカちゃんが持っていた祭事用のクワ、もううすうすは気づいてると思うけど、あれは田畑を耕すクワではなくて、人間の腹をこじ開けるための解剖道具なのよ。
Another CG cutscene. Okay, we'll read it after this. Was not expecting Shion to be kind of like holding on to us like this, but I think this is the first time we actually see Keiichi's like face depicted in the game so far. I believe someone mentioned in one of the past streams that we had seen Keiichi's like body in probably like chapter 1, but I didn't have CG on, so we didn't get to see it. But if we hadn't seen his face before, and I don't remember if we've seen it before in the playthrough, because again, I only play this game like twice a week. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, whenever, if you're watching all of this back to back, then you'll remember. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen Keiichi's face completely. But anyway, I didn't see the dance all the way through, so I don't know what kind of performance Rika-chan was putting on after I'd left. When I told this to Takano-san, she kindly explained Rika-chan's dance to me. To summarize what she said, after what I'd seen, Rika-chan would pierce the futons with that hoe, cut them open, and pull out the cotton inside. She'd cut the cotton out one bit at a time and set it afloat. That's the kind of ritual it was.
平たく言えば、魚の綿を取り出して三角コーナーに捨てるのを仰々しく儀式仕立てにしたってことね。それで儀式はおしまい。その後はそれぞれの役割を持った村人たちがおのおのに肉を解体しておいしくいただいたって考えられてるわね。
At Takano-san's strangely happy giggle, I felt, for some reason, violent displeasure. Rika-chan, every day during our lunch break, she'd take a rice-pounding mallet into the schoolyard, and she'd work so hard, sweating bullets, to practice for the offertory dance she had done today. All that effort, all that work, Takano-san disgraced it. Even though she worked so hard to practice for today.
高野さんももう少し言葉を選んでほしいです。ケイちゃん、ナイーブなんですから、あまりからかわないでください。
A moment before I opened my mouth to express how angry I was, Shion stopped me. Shion must have been fully aware of how that story made me feel.
ごめんなさい。男の子だから、ショッキングな話は結構好きかと思って。
Takano-san spoke without a hint of malice as she smiled gracefully.
この辺まで話を聞けば、ケイちゃんにもこの細具殿の中にどういうものがあるのか理解できるようになってきませんか？ほら。
Shion pointed out one of the walls vaguely illuminated by the lantern's light. There was... Mere moments ago, they hadn't held my interest. They were just boring-looking tools lined up on the shelves. All of those uninteresting tools that I didn't understand how to use, they all suddenly took on a new meaning, and I couldn't help but let out a groan. At first, they looked like carpentry tools, like chisels or planes. However, when I thought back, I'd seen pictures of these sorts of tools before. Yeah, they came up in a Japanese history textbook. Yes, on the page introducing the Katai Shinsho, or the new text on anatomy.
こういうのはね、医学の本場、ドイツの文献の方がリアルに掲載されてるわよ。
These aren't carpentry tools. These strangely shaped tools, they're for dissection. Everyone knows that in the Edo period, they would dissect the corpses of those who had been put to death in order to gain knowledge about Western medical techniques. Illustrations of the dissection tools they used at the time came up in textbook supplements. The things hung up on this wall all looked exactly the same as those.
もっと怖い言い方をするなら、調理道具といったところかしらね。
Takano-san, holding the lantern, the only light source in the room, led us along the wall. She had the only light, so I had to walk after her whether I liked it or not.
ほら。
Takano-san illuminated a coiled chain, which left a bigger impression than the other things we saw. The chain itself was nothing unusual, but further along it were metal fetters that were like hinges clearly meant for binding people.
ケイちゃん、あれ。
Shion tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a restraining table that was clearly shaped like a person. My spine froze. My blood felt like it was turning into sherbet as it crawled up my back. On each of the joints were things like chains and iron balls attached. It was like the table was searching for its next sacrifice, ready to spread their arms wide and close them in.
多分まな板じゃないかしら。犠牲者を拘束してこの台の上でお料理をしたんだと思うわね。
The words chopping block sent a jolt through my body. When I looked more closely, there were many dark slices carved into it, as through from a knife or a saw. They were the most clear-cut signs of usage you could ask for. It proved these tools weren't just for show. They were used for their original purpose. If someone was strapped tightly onto this table, they probably wouldn't be able to move even a muscle. Their guts would be defenseless. You take one of those eerie cooking knives lined up over there, stab them with it, and then you'd slice open their belly and dissect them.
話には聞いてたけど、すごい。
Before coming in, Shion had mentioned she had a good guess of what was inside, but it seems to have exceeded her imagination.
まだまだあるわよ。どう？浪人業館より面白いでしょ。
Takano-san had this happy expression like she was visiting a toy store for the first time. I don't get it. This Mio Takano person has nerves of steel. Are these bizarre, grotesque objects that fascinating to her? I, for one, was not enjoying myself. I'll be frank. This was all too weird for me. Still, there was something even more horrifying than all this. The giant Buddha statue in the middle? That would be, none other than Takano-san herself. Takano-san holding the lantern, giving off such a beam of light. If she suddenly turned it off, then what would I do? What would I do when the next moment everything went totally dark? That's why I was scared. Takano-san had the only light, and anyway, I was scared. At some point, Shion had started holding onto my shirt sleeve. It was a little annoying to walk like that, but I didn't shake her off. That minor sensation allowed me to feel the presence of an ally here and now. Before we had even walked halfway through the storehouse, the air I felt on my skin changed completely. These cruel tools lined up all crammed together in this place. Some were horrible ones made to take away sacrifices' freedom, and some were tools made to efficiently disassemble and prepare the bodies for consumption. Those were just the things I understood. There were plenty of other strange-looking objects that I couldn't even guess the purpose of. Now that I was here, I didn't even have the slightest desire to hear the details about what sort of terrifying reason they were meant to be used for. At the very least, they were all completely different from the sort of clean, simple killing function of a katana. Tools to kill people were obviously constructed in such a way that they could kill people. If that was the goal, then the person you used them on would obviously end up dead. The kind of tools here, however, were different. The tools that were here were for cutting people, for crushing them, boiling them, and cooking them, and for grinding them. They were the tools of torture. They weren't made to kill people. People dying was just an incidental result. Actually, they might not even kill them. If the sacrifices could die during such a horrifying ritual process, that would be nice, but they don't even die in the end. They remain in a state of hellish pain. Perhaps they were only being allowed to live. Only now, in this moment, did I fully realize just how terrifying and fearsome that difference was.
人ってね、上手にやると結構殺さずに済むものらしいの。
Takano-san, as if reading my mind, displayed a shocking smile.
魔女狩りで有名な家系、火あぶりなんかはすぐに死んじゃうのよ。全身の皮膚が広範囲にわたって重度の火傷を負うと、組織の分解産物で中毒症状を引き起こし、重度なショックを併発しちゃうから。まあ確かにそれに至るまでがギロチンなんかに比べれば はるかに長いところに残虐性があるんだけど。
She describes such horrors in a strangely medical way. Shion immediately answered the question I had.
高野さん、看護師さんですから。
Right. And that's kind of like why she's probably really fascinated in all this. Anyway, there's a saying that nothing can scare a doctor. I guess that's true.
ところがね、ローマの時代の処刑方法にね、網焼きというものがあったの。
Oh, the brazen bull.
バーベキューと同じにね、金網で挟みつけて炭火でじっくりと焼いたんですって。
Never mind, I think brazen bull was Babylonian. To think the memories of when I went to a day camp with my family would come rushing back now of all times so vividly.
これだとね、どういうわけかなかなか死なないらしいのよ。ものの本によると、一昼夜かけて片側が炭化するくらいこんがり焼いてもまだ意識があって流暢に話をしたなんて記述も出てくるから。
It's insane. You'd grill someone the whole day and they'd still be conscious. It's said that ancient Rome, famous for their executions, thought of plenty of ways to execute someone while having the victim stay alive as long as
そ
possible.
の中にね、お腹を開いて腸をウインナーみたいに引っ張り出してウィンチで引っ張り上げて晒し物にする刑があったんですって。
Shion was behind me, clinging to me. Not just because she was scared, she was protecting her stomach.
臓物を引っ張り出すなんて聞いただけでもすぐに死んじゃいそうでしょ。でもね、丁寧に優しくやるとね、意識がはっきりとした状態のまま腹綿を引きずり出すことって可能らしいのよ。
You also have to remember that our intestines are super fucking long. So I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. It was like my organs were coiling up just from Takano-san's stare.
ウィンチで引っ張り出すっていうのはなんだか大妙な方法だけど、もっと野蛮に裂いた腹から臓物をちぎっては投げちぎっては投げという、そんな恐ろしい刑もあったんじゃないかって十分に考えられない？でも処刑者には意識があるの。それは痛い以上に恐ろしい体験なんでしょうね。
She spoke with pleasure as if she had come here on a sightseeing trip. I heard Shion gulping multiple times near my ears.
ひなみ沢の、いえ、鬼ヶ淵村の綿流しもそんな感じだったのかしらね。ほら、耳を澄ませば聞こえてくるような気がしない？
I wanted nothing more than to not hear anything at all. So why only at times like these do I begin to hear things I shouldn't be able to? Takano-san, having realized she'd scared Shion and I enough at this point, smiled soothingly. Then she turned on her heel, raised the lantern, and began to walk again. If Takano-san left us here, we'd get even further away from the light. Shion and I, no matter how scared we were forced to follow Takano-san along on our field trip through the ritual storehouse.
これで軽く一周できたかしらね。面白いところでしょ。
She says, raising the lantern high in the center of the storehouse. The dim lighting didn't change, but for some reason it felt like I was able to see all of those horrible tools at once.
ケイちゃん、上。
Shion stammered while grabbing the nape of my neck. I couldn't tell because it was so dark, but there were a lot more tools hanging from the ceiling as well. They all looked like they were made of iron bars, but then I figured it out. Cages. For cages, they were very small. Cramped cages just for one, like a casket. If you got locked up in there, no, you wouldn't get locked up inside it. It was another tool meant for restraining people, where the iron bars would squeeze you tightly. So many big and large things of all shapes were hanging down. Takano-san's mention of execution by grilling crosses my mind. We weren't just surrounded on all sides by these terrifying instruments. Things crowding the ceiling were even hanging over our heads.
ヨーロッパの拷問道具にこういった鳥かごがたくさん登場するわね。日本にもあったなんて驚きだわ。
ケイちゃん。
I don't remember the name of the ones that they used in Europe, but I remember in coastal towns or coastal villages, if someone was caught stealing, or if they found like a pirate or an outlaw or a bandit or something, they would put them in these cages specifically by the ocean, where they would starve, like they would be starved alive. And eventually, like, birds would come and, like, kill them, basically. They would peck at them and slowly tear their skin away and eat them. And that's how these people were, like, put to death. They were shoved inside of these giant cages, or, well, not giant cages, but these cages that were basically locked in a way where only, like, their legs or something could hang out. And then birds would surround them and basically eat them, like, pick at them over the course of days and days until they died, and then they would be kind of just picked clean by birds.
あれ、中に入ってない？人？ミイラ？
どれ？
Shion desperately pointed to one of the many human-sized bird cages hanging from the ceiling, but I couldn't tell which one she meant. Being that dark, there wasn't a way you could tell if something was there in the first place.
私には何も見えないけど、見間違いじゃないの？
Shion didn't seem convinced, but without a means to confirm for ourselves, we couldn't do much but wonder.
これで前原君にもなんとなく信じられるようになったんじゃないかしら。ひなみ沢に伝えられる恐ろしい儀式の数々が。
It's got nothing to do with believing in them. Now that I've been shown the real thing like this, there's no possible way to deny it. Even the nations of Europe, with all their beautiful landscapes and legends, were like a maelstrom during the terrible witch hunts during the Dark Ages. True? It's well known that the era gave birth to countless gruesome forms of torture and execution. Japan was the same way. Didn't it have its own era of hellscape-like torture feast because of religious suppression and things of that nature? Hiramizawa itself had such a period. It had that much history behind it. Even in Europe, Land of the Witch Hunts, Land of the Witch Hunts, what a fucking title. That was all far in the past, no more than a series of historical events, and in this age, nothing that abnormal would ever happen. That must apply to Hinamizawa as well.
中世の暗黒時代とかがそうだったように、ひなみ沢にも暗黒時代があった。そういうものなんだと解釈します。本当にひなみ沢でこういう恐ろしいことがあったのだとしても、それは大昔の出来事なんです。
Yeah.
今暮らしているひなみ沢の人々とは何の関係もないことです。
Yeah.
前原君は本当にひなみ沢が好きなのね。
It didn't sound like she was making fun of me. Takano-san gave me a light smile.
でも、高野さんはその風習が 実は現代にも残っているんじゃないかと思って研究をしてるんです。そうでしたよね。
Shion suggested something that made my heart leap into my throat. Are you telling me that all these horrible things are still going on today?
これ本当に内緒なんだからね。しおんちゃんは理解のある人だから話したけど、他の村人には聞かれたくないの。下手をしたら罰当たり者ってことで袋叩きにされかねないんだから。
Shion flashed a devilish smile as if reveling in the immorality of it.
前原君も内緒にしてね。知られたら私、お社様のたたりに遭うか、生贄にされちゃうかするかもしれない。たたりなら今年はどんな死に方をさせられちゃうのかしら。生贄なら鬼ヶ淵の沼に生きたまま沈められちゃうのかしら。そういえば今夜よね、お社様のたたりがある夜は。
Takano-san said, bringing her face right up close to ours, as if to say if she had the choice, she'd rather suffer the curse. That was what she was. That was what she seemed to be implying. Takano-san took a fairly worn notebook out of her paper bag and then began to flip through its pages. There were all sorts of references and newspaper clippings attached to them, and it had all manner of things written inside. The letters were very small and bunched together, so I couldn't tell at a glance what it was about.
本当は国会図書館で当時の新聞を探したいんだけどね。ほら、ここ。
A photocopy of a page from some book was slid into the notebook, and it too was written in small, tight lettering. Like the other pages, I couldn't tell what it was about just by
こ
glancing
れ
at it.
は実際にあったお話よ。明治の終わり頃にね。
Let me check when the Meiji era was real quick, because I do not know Japanese eras off the top of my head. So this period was from the mid 80s to early 1900s. So 1868 to 1912. Okay. Yeah.
鬼ヶ淵村で身元不明の惨殺死体が発見されたんですって。
An old newspaper clipping attached to the page spoke of something that was no mere rumor or fairy tale.
当時の警察の資料がほとんど残ってないそうだから、口伝と記憶によるものだけなんだけどね。ほら、これ不鮮明だけど、明治の頃の新聞の切り抜きみたい。
Never before has there been a corpse treated with such cruelty and inhumanity. Could it be the work of a demon? Being a copy of a copy, it was very hard to make out, but it was more than enough to make me feel strangely tense. Near the end of the Meiji era, in old Watanagashi village, a mangled corpse was discovered. The identity of the corpse was unknown. It wasn't even in a state where it could be identified in the first place. It was missing a head, and each limb was separated from the body. Skin had been peeled off the entire body, and there were markings that implied terrible torture in every place imaginable. Not only that, but the belly had been cut open by a sharp knife with the entrails completely dragged out. The police immediately began an investigation, but since they couldn't even determine the identity of the victim, much less the criminal, finding answers was extremely difficult.
どういう状況かわかるかしら？
I couldn't imagine such a strange sight, even if I tried. This was the first time I was ever thankful for my lack of imagination.
被害者は生きながらにして全身の皮を剥がれ、あらゆるそして死後にもさらに遺体を分解解剖と残虐の限りを尽くしたのではないかって筆者は見ているわね。私は どの皇帝も生きているうちにやったんじゃないかって思ってるんだけどね。前原君はどう思うかしら？
God, Kate is probably scared shitless. She spoke in a way intended to make me imagine even more vicious things. As my brain was already far over capacity, however, there was no way I could imagine anything more brutal. Then, when I broke my gaze from Takano-san's, those strangely shaped weird tools were all around us. I wonder if you could faithfully reproduce the mutilated corpse discovered at the end of the Meiji era with the tools found in this place. I want to deny it. I don't want to admit that something so terrible could have happened at all. Even so, they were so strange, so terrifying, these tools. And as if they had seen through my attempt to escape from them, they did nothing but ridicule me
そ
silently.
の薄気味悪い事件が何だって言うんですか？
筆者はね、鬼ヶ淵村の恐ろしい習慣は明治以降の近代。ひょっとすると昭和初期くらいまでは残ってたんじゃないかって結んでるわ。
Let's double check the Showa period because I don't remember when that is either. So, Showa. This was. So, the last one ended in 1912. And the Showa period was from 1926 until 1989. Right. Interesting. Because this game takes place in 86, I believe. I believe it was. It was either, no, it was 83. 1983. So the era isn't over yet. And we're still seeing some of these gruesome acts continuing on to, well, almost current day, it seems. This corpse, at a glance, appeared to have been brutally killed after a period of torture. In actuality, however, it was the pitiful sacrificial remains of the man-eater's terrifying feast. The corpse was just leftovers. It was so fantastic, so strange that it didn't feel real. Was this an extension of the legends too? It happened in the Meiji era though, which is just too recent to be called a legend. Also, there's a newspaper clipping right here suggesting it.
でも本当にあったとしたって昔のことですよね。
Who knows, Keiichi? Was it a long time ago?
明治なんて言ったらそれこそ100年くらい前の。
たったよ。たった100年前のことよ。それにね、昭和に入ってからだってあるんだから。終戦直後に騒ぎになった人肉缶詰事件。あ、ごめんなさい。この話はタブーだったわよね。
Huh? Huh? Takano-san immediately stopped talking, as if worried about Shion. Shion briefly looked somewhat angry, but that expression soon disappeared.
今高野さんなんて言いました？人肉缶詰って。
Just then, there was a huge creaking noise. Everyone whipped around to look. It was Tomitake-san who had opened the door slightly.
驚かせちゃったかな？
あ、ここ素敵な拷問道具の宝庫よ。
僕は遠慮させてもらうよ。生来ね、こういうのは苦手なんだ。
Takano-san held her stomach and had to muffle her laughter, as if she wanted to make a comment about his masculinity.
それより、演舞とセレモニーが終わって、みんな沢の方に降りていったよ。あと何分もしないうちにお祭りは終わっちゃう。
あら、いけない。前原くんがあまりにも聞き上手だから、またお話三昧になっちゃったわ。
I'd really rather you not mentioning me in a place like
次郎
this.
さんは表で待っててくれるかしら？私はちょっと写真を撮るわね。本当はいくつか道具を持って帰りたいんだけど、それはさすがに無理そうだからね。
Takano-san took a camera out of her paper bag and began to snap photographs. She looked like she was having fun. She was on a scavenger hunt.
ケイチ君も出るかい？
もう十分に見ましたので。シオン、もういいだろう。出ようぜ。綺麗な空気が吸いたいよ。
同感です。出ましょう。
I did feel a bit of hesitation at leaving Takano-san by herself in this darkness. When I thought about it, though, I realized that whatever kinds of evil spirits and ghosts lurked in the darkness, none of them could hold a candle to how scary she was. Even if a phantasm were to appear, she'd be overjoyed and flash her camera at it. She'd be hunting ghosts like we were in Fatal Frame. It seemed like Shion shared my somewhat rude mental images. We exchanged glances and smiled painfully. We left Takano-san there, bathed in her strobe of camera flashes, and decided to go leave the ritual storehouse. Everyone at the festival seemed to have gone to the stream, so their voices were very distant. The voices of the bugs, on the other hand, were clear, lending an empty feeling of isolation to the place.
どうだい？面白かったかい？
Tomitaka-san gave us a somewhat mischievous grin. You should have been able to tell by looking at how pale our faces were.
富武さんと一緒に留守番をしてればよかったです。
Tomitaka-san laughed so delightfully that it wiped away our dark feelings.
シオンちゃんはどうだったかな？怖かったかい？
一応心の準備があった分怖くはなかったですけど、でもやっぱり実物は迫力あります。
Yeah, I can only imagine. Because like remember, we went into this storeroom, and it's supposed to be like a sacred ritual, like storeroom for the shrine. And inside of it, we find a chamber and then an antechamber, and then the antechamber contains torture devices, of all things. Shion spoke like she wasn't scared at all. She really had been quite afraid, but seeing as how I was in way worse of a state of mind than her, worse state than her. God damn it, I can't read tonight. I didn't have much room to talk. As Tomitaka-san grinned candidly, my mind, exhausted and locked up by nervousness, began to calm itself.
高野さんはおとなしく見物してたかな？ほら、彼女子供っぽいところがあるだろう？宝の山を前にさぞや興奮してたんじゃないかと思ってね。
Hey Mina, thanks for stopping by. You did kind of miss out on a lot of the gruesome talk, so if you aren't into the discussion of possible human dismemberment, then you showed up at the right time. Otherwise, you might want to rewind like 30 minutes later if you want to watch the VOD. Both Shion and I laughed and left that as our answer.
見るだけならいいんだけどね。こっそりと何かを持ち出したり、いじくりすぎて細具を壊したりしないかが心配なんだよ。
Right, that's quite possible. She is alone in there right now. She might pilfer something small and easily concealed, hiding it in her pocket.
やりかねないです。
Shion said what I was thinking.
本当に何も壊したりしなかったかな。なんだかドタンバタンと飛び跳ねるような音がよく聞こえたからね。僕は不安で。
ごめんなさい。フィルムがなくなっちゃったわ。二郎さん、フィルムが余ってたら分けてくれないかしら。
Takano-san suddenly appeared while we were talking about her, taking everyone by surprise. Tomitaka-san smoothly grinned and responded as if nothing had happened. He's pretty mature.
もう予備のフィルムは切れちゃったよ。申し訳ないね。
もういついかなる時でもフィルムを残しておかないと決定的スクープ写真なんか撮れないわよ。
True.
仕方ないわね。
Tomitaka-san scratched his head apologetically. Without film, we were done here. Takano-san seemed to have given up because of that too. We checked carefully to make sure we hadn't left anything inside, then closed the door and turned to the heavy padlock we'd left beside it.
高野さん、何も持ち出してないだろうね。
失礼ね。そこまで子供じゃないつもりよ。
Tomitaka set the padlock to the way it was before. From a cursory glance, it didn't look like thieves had snuck in at all.
よし、僕たちも沢に行こう。綿を流すところくらいやらないとお祭りに来た意味がないよ。
Not true. Tomitaka-san spoke brightly, urging us all on, setting cotton afloat down the stream. I shake my head a few times, driving away my dismal thoughts as to the double meaning. Takano-san, looking a little let down, kept turning back to glance at the ritual storehouse.
もうこれっきりにしてくれよ。十分に知的好奇心は満たせただろう。
Yeah.
まさか。むしろ新しい興味を惹かれるような発見ばかりよ。今日のでこれまでの仮説が一気に現実になったわ。これで今後の調べ方がだいぶ変わってくるんだから。
Wow, she's truly indomitable. Her curiosity really is something else, still interested in all this through and through. Oh, and I think this is actually a new background. So this appears to be like a river or like a waterfall scene. I'm not sure. Let's find out. Let's see what the console background looks like. Nope, it's just a riverside. Neat. Back to this. We descended the stone stairs and all the people crowding the stream came into view. Near the bottom of the stairs, we could clearly see people receiving cotton that had been cut out for them, then wishing upon the cotton and setting it afloat down the stream. The festival was already over.
まずったな。綿流しの一番いいところを撮影し損ねたよ。
あら、まだ遅くないわよ。私が行って流すんだから。私を撮ってはくださらないのかしら。
Takano-san, with an impish expression, brought her head to Tomitake-san's shoulder. Despite his age, he looked embarrassed. I felt an honest respect for Tomitake-san, man to man, for dating such a handful of a woman.
じゃあね。前原くん。しおんちゃんも。
僕たちは今からでも沢に行ってみるよ。君たちも一緒に来るかい？
まさか。お二人の邪魔なんてできません。どうぞごゆっくり。
Shion waved her hand to them with an expression just as impish as Takano-san's. Tomitake-san, on his part, seemed to want us to come, but whatever. Shion gave a big stretch and sat down on the stone steps.
疲れちゃいました。
同感だな。俺も疲れた。
ケイちゃんは綿流し初めてなんですよね。私なんか気にしないで行ってきてください。私は疲れちゃったんで、人混みはちょっとパスしておきます。
Yeah, if we were to go now, we'd barely slip into the end of the cotton drifting ceremony.
お姉たちがケイちゃんのことを探してるかもしれませんから。行ってきてください。
あ、そうだ。ミオンたちと別れたままそれっきりだったな。探してると悪い。
Then Shion suddenly got a playful look on her face, then put her index finger to her lips as if telling me to keep this a secret.
お姉ってすっごく嫉妬深いんです。私がケイちゃんを独占してたことがバレると、いろいろうるさいんで、今夜のことは秘密にしておいてくださいね。
Keep tonight a secret. Don't say things that are so embarrassing.
そういう意味だけじゃないですよ。今夜、私たちがしたことを思えば、秘密にするのは当然です。今夜起こるかもしれないお社様のたたり、私たち4人が最有力候補なんですからね。
The loosening threads of tension became taut again. Shion, however, burst out laughing.
じゃあ、私はお姉に出くわす前に退散します。 今日は本当に疲れてるから、お姉とやり合えるだけの体力はないですし。
シオンって、ミオンと仲がいいのか悪いのか、よくわからないな。
仲、いいですよ。
Though as she said that, her vague expression explained that that there are a lot of oddities in a relationship between twins. I mean, I can only imagine.
俺は一人っ子だからよくわかんないな。せいぜい仲良くしろよ。
はい。余計なおせっかいと受けたまわります。それじゃあ私はこの辺で。ケイちゃんも急いで行った方がいいですよ。本当に綿流しが終わっちゃいます。
Shion stood up and brushed the dust. Shion stood up and brushed the dust off of her backside. After watching her do so, I returned my eyes to the final ceremony of the Watanagashi festival below me.
でも本当に、あの音は何だったんでしょうね。不愉快というか、気味が悪いというか。
何の音だって？
音ですよ。ドタンバタンって。うるさかったじゃないですか。
I was giving her a blank expression, so Shion stared hard at me. I stared hard at her too.
ごめん、シオン。はしょらないで最初から説明してくれないか。何がうるさかったって？
ケイちゃん、あれ、気にならなかったんですか？
When all said and done, it was like we were speaking in two different languages.
シオン、冗談抜きで初めから説明してくれないか。音がどうしたって？
ケイちゃんこそ冗談抜きで、本当に気にならなかったんですか？
Neither of us was giving any ground, and both of us were staring at each other in disbelief. We were answering questions with more questions with no sign of an actual conversation in sight. Baffled, I held in the urge to shout at her and asked her politely one more time.
もう一度聞くからな。質問は俺からだ。
Shion nodded silently.
じゃあ聞くぞ。音がしたって何のことだ？
ドタンバタンって、なんだかどこか遠くの板の間で子供が跳ねてるような。本当に気にならなかったんですか？
気にならないも何も。そんな音いつ聞こえた？俺は何も聞いてないぞ。
ちょっとケイちゃん、それ本気で言ってるんですか？
Shion, as if she didn't understand my plain and simple answer, pressured me further, her expression serious. I have no clue what she's talking about, but if it has Shion acting like this, whatever it was, it gave me the creeps and sent a chill down my spine.
さっき西宮殿の中で高野さんと一緒に見て回ってる最中、高野さんが昔話を始めた頃からかな、少しずつだんだんとちょくちょくと。
She heard a banging sound like a child jumping on distant floorboards.
嘘だろ？最後の最後で怖がらせるのはなしだぜ、おい。
I didn't hear anything at all. In fact, it was so utterly silent in there that my own heartbeat was almost deafening.
ケイちゃんこそ怖がらせないでください。
Oh no.
なんだか高野さんの怖い話に合わせて音を立ててるようで、私ずっと薄気味悪かったんですから。
Maybe it's the ogre blood inside of you, Shion. I don't know. The chill rose from my spine to the back of my head. My blood turned cold as it crawled up my body. When it reached my head, my mind froze over.
ケイちゃんも高野さんも全然意にも介さない風だったので、私も聞こえないふりをずっとしてましたけど。聞こえましたよね。何度かはすごく大きな音でしたから。
Shion's eyes were begging me to tell her I had heard it. No doubt, however, that my own eyes suggested something entirely different. You've gotta be kidding me look. In that storehouse, we were surrounded by brutal ritual tools that looked like they were from another planet, listening to terrifying old stories. The whole time, Shion had been hearing a sound that we couldn't hear by herself. Should that make Shion, who heard it, tremble, Or should it make me, who didn't hear it, tremble? I didn't know the answer to that at the time. For now, Shion seemed to have made that decision before I did.
なんだよ突然。
引っかかりましたね、ケイちゃん。嘘ですよ。嘘。
はあ
Shion laughed, saying how easily scared I was, and clapped me on the back. Her smile seemed somehow artificial, and actually made me feel worse. Then, after leaving me with 2 or 3 generic diplomatic goodbye phrases, she left almost like she was running away. All I could do was look after her, my mouth agape. At the end of the day, I didn't have a clue what was going on. Shion laughed it off and said she had been lying, but she couldn't possibly have been lying. Of course not. And now that I think back, Tomitake-san said the same thing, didn't he?
なんだかドタンバタンと飛び跳ねるような音がよく聞こえたからね。僕は不安で不安で。
Tomitake-san, the most neutral party present at the time, said he had heard, or had said he'd heard something. Then that noise. It was real. The banging sounds as though a child was jumping up and down on some kind of floorboards far away. Oyashiro-sama's curse, which happens every year, might happen again tonight. The most plausible victim candidates were Takano-san, Tomitake-san, Shion, and me. The bustling of the people sounded further away than I would have liked, and the sounds of the insects sounded too close for comfort. I'm near so much human warmth, and yet I can't ever go back there again. That was the ominous idea that sprouted in my mind. Then all of a sudden I was pounced on from behind, causing my heart to lurch.
ケイチ、見つけたなのです。
It was Rika-chan. When I turned around, Mion and Rena were there too.
やっと見つけた。あとはさとこか。
今年はみんなはぐれちゃったね。来年からはちゃんと合流場所を決めておきたいな。
そうだね。やっぱりお祭りはみんなと一緒でないとね。
I listened to Mion's happy declaration with a little bit of guilt.
ケイチは僕の演舞はちゃんと応援してくれましたですか？
ああ、ちゃんと見てたぜ。最後までちゃんと頑張ったな。ミスもなかったし。
うん、そうだよリカちゃん。あんなのはミスのうちに入らないよ。
I tensed up as I realized I'd made a mistake of my own. Mion slapped a hand onto my shoulder a little roughly. A gross sweat broke out over my whole body.
ケイちゃんはやった？綿をもらって沢に流した？
You haven't yet, right? Is what I could feel her saying. Without the courage to tell any more lies, I lifelessly shook my head.
あれ？そうなのケイチくん。早く行かないと終わっちゃうよ。終わっちゃうよ。
ごめん。初めてのお祭りだからさ。よくルールがわからなくて。
そうだったね。ごめん。
They're gonna come with us, and we're gonna do the little cotton ritual. Mion took my hand, and we started walking down the stone steps.
ねえケイちゃん。
なんだよ。
シオンには会わなかった？
Oh. It's one of these. My heart skipped another beat. Maybe Mion could sense my surprise through my hand.
いや、でも、姿を見たような。でも、ミオンとそっくりだからな。ミオンだったのかもしれないし。
そんなに間違えないでしょ？服装だって違うんだから。
そうだよな。
Mion's momentary silence was like a death grip upon me.
しょうがないな、シオンは。まあ、あいつのことだから、放っておいても大丈夫かな。
Mion's expression returned to her former usual smile, and we continued down the stone steps, her firmly pulling my hand along. Okay, God. I thought it was gonna go on for a little bit longer. Like, this chapter was pretty long. Normally, we'd have some sort of, like, interlude in the middle, where we see the little, you know, flashing of the title, right? And then we'd continue to the second half, and then we get to the final one as the day is over. But my God. So we'll cover the tips in a little bit. But this was quite the interesting chapter. This was really, really, really good. It was really crazy how we just go into this, like, storage room, and we just encounter all of these torture tools, all these torture devices. And we're just told about, like, the history of this village. Now, before we read the tips, I mean, anyone who's, you know, watching this, or who has played along, or who has seen chapter 1, we know that the events that happened in chapter 1 have been much different than these in chapter 2. The story that we went through in chapter 1 was completely different. We still went to the Watanagashi. We still had the festival. We went through the festival in the first chapter, and we played a bunch of games, we won a bunch of prizes, and then we did club activities, right? We then heard about the murders that happened in Hinamizawa like 5 years ago. And we then experienced something afterwards, you know, in later on in the chapter, which I don't mind. I mean, this is not really a spoiler if you've been following along with the story, but as we know, in chapter 1, Tomitake-san and the chick whose name is escaping me right now, both of them disappear. Tomitake-san dies tonight. His body is found afterwards with, you know, with his throat clawed out by his own hands. And the nurse goes missing. We don't know what happened to her. We don't know where she went. All we know is that both of them were the victims of this year's Watanagashi. Now, in this chapter, we went through the entire, you know, Watanagashi again, but instead of playing through all the games, we instead went through all the food stands, which is a very interesting, like, writing technique, where the author describes the food, right? He goes through, like, a bunch of, like, stands, and he kind of makes you hungry. And then you get to a scene where he starts to describe how this village used to torture and then consume humans. How the villagers would torture villagers that they hated from neighboring villages that they despised. They would kidnap them, and they would then torture and consume them after torturing them, after dismembering them, after degutting them. And how all of this was done through a ritual tonight, in the same way that our friend who's a shrine maiden was partaking in a similar ritual, except instead of using a human corpse, they were using a futon, right? And the cotton that was being pulled out of the futon was supposed to be the entrails that would then be passed on to people for them to consume, right, during this festival. So it's supposed to obviously gross you out and then, like, kind of kill your mood and kill your hunger. It's very, very, very interesting. So in chapter 1, we didn't know why Tomitake-san died. We didn't know why she died as well, or why she went missing. But now we kind of know why that is. Because Tomitake-san helped her, and now us, break into the sacred storage shed. And from there, we basically just defiled their culture, their traditions, by just breaking into their torture chamber, which obviously would be punishable by death, I'd assume, by the locals. So we'll see how they handle it in chapter 2. I'm sorry, how they handle it in chapter 2. Because in chapter 1, we just know that she goes missing, and he gets surrounded by like 5 dudes, or by 5 individuals or something. He tries to fight back and then claws out his throat. So let's go ahead and save real quick, and then let's look at the tips one more time. Or not one more time, the tips for this chapter. Because there's 4 of them, and then we'll get ready to call it for tonight. Or there's 3 of them, sorry. So from scrapbook 4, 5, and then after the festival. Watanagashi. The rite of Watanagashi is performed during the village festival every June, even now, but reading back to its origin turns up a seriously sanguine ceremony. Originally, Watanagashi would happen at certain intervals, and after receiving Oyashiro-sama's trust, they chose a sacrifice. Then the entire village would kidnap, demon away, a person, and ceremoniously dissect and devour them in a feast. The rules that determine the intervals are shrouded in mystery. This is because the ceremonies occurred extremely irregularly. There's a theory that it was determined based on astrological fortune-telling, but it isn't too convincing. Oh my god, we have to kill a Leo tonight. That's what they were fucking doing. The residents of ancient Watanagashi village firmly believed that they were half man, half demon, or half ogre, transcendence, and that they were more valuable than humans were. They forced people within and without to accept that. Perhaps the act of kidnapping and eating people was done to prove that they were higher up on the food chain. This is just a hypothesis, but maybe the rite of Watanagashi was a political event for the purpose of being an outlet for, or outright diverting the attention of, the villagers of the isolated Watanagashi village. In any case, of their complaints or dissatisfaction grew serious. In case any of their complaints or dissatisfactions grew serious. If that was the main reason these ceremonies were held, then it's easy to explain how erratic they were. That's crazy shit. The alleged importance of the implements. I can't find anything that gives a concrete description on what the ritual implements were like. They were, however, real, and there definitely existed a multitude of different kinds. One source states that the implements used in the Watanagashi rite alone numbered 200. Oh my god. The obvious question then is why they required such a myriad of them. The rite of Watanagashi was to kidnap people through the demoning away, dissect them, and eat them. I believe the tools were for dissection and restraining, but 200 of them is too many. Generally, tools evolve in such a way as to reach a solution for a certain problem. Once you've reached the ultimate goal, that is, attained a certain level of efficiency, the tools' evolution normally stops there. Regardless, why would they have created so many different kinds? One of the cultural elements responsible for diversification over time is that of entertainment. Tools used for entertainment would evolve over time and branch out. Unlike normal tools, reaching the ultimate goal would be more of a dead end, and in searching for the next goal, they would split into many different subtypes. Also, hey Bo, thanks for stopping by. So then, perhaps it's not a stretch to suggest that these 200 plus implements had some entertainment value. This is just a hypothesis, of course, but maybe the human dissection process was viewed as a type of entertainment. The 3 families of old would develop one new implement dissection tool after another, and each was varied, novel, and attracted spectators to keep them from growing bored. It's not unimaginable. All of them have to be enshrined within that storehouse. There isn't much longer until the night of Watanagashi. Though its original intent has been lost, I will reveal the secrets of the traditional ceremonial night within the ritual storehouse. I can't restrain my excitement. Watanagashi cannot come soon enough. Right. So I'm pretty sure that these that these specific notebook pages that we're reading are from the nurse. Because remember, she was super excited about, well, the Watanagashi festival, and then we find out that it was originally just a ritual for dismemberment and torturing, and now we learn that there's 200 plus tools that were used, and that some might have just been invented to either prolong the suffering or worse, I guess. Man, that is insane. But let's get to the final tip, which is after the festival, back at the police station. Late that night, tensions in the police station were strained. In the silence, many of the staff members' eyes shifted back and forth between the clock and their telephones, counting the seconds in that stifled atmosphere. Kumagaya-kun burst in with a young guy trailing behind him.
Oi-san! こっちは検診入りました。じいさまもさっき到着です。俺もスタンバイ OK しました。このまま焼死の現場へ直行します。
熊ちゃん、ちょっと話がややこしくなりました。向こうは身元の判別が非常に困難な状態だそうです。
まさか4年前のあれっすか？
いいえ、こんがりといい感じだそうで。
Oh. He spoke in sportive tones, but the meaning behind his words was heavy. The staff gave a collective sigh.
頭のてっぺんから丸々？
バッチリ黒焦げだそうで、ああいう匂いってこもるんですよね。ギフさんかわいそうだな。
Cooked with no possessions, then discarded outside the prefecture. At worst, it would have taken a week for the body to be identified. The fact that they'd sniffed it out tonight was huge.
今、小宮山君たちが沖宮の歯科医を根こそぎ野襲してます。カルテで歯型照合するしかないでしょう。ごめん。誰かきつめのタバコ2箱ぐらい買ってきてくれません？
The young guys answered in affirmation and darted out into the hallway.
今年は見事見つけましたね。ひょっとすると過去の失踪者もこんな感じで県外で殺されてたんすかね。
なら埋めればいいじゃないですか。重りつけて日本海でも琵琶湖でもいいですね。
でもどうして一人死んで一人消えるのがこれまでのパターンじゃないですか。
熊ちゃん、仏は拘束なしでドラム缶の中でこんがりでしょ。多分締められた後にわざわざ焼いたんじゃないかと思うんですよ。
Holy fuck.
見つかることを覚悟の上でです。
じゃあつまり今年は消す気は初めからなかったってことっすか？
消す気がないってよりは、これはそれとは全く別のものでしょうね。消すどころか主張しているようにすら感じられますよ。
つまり見せしめの意味があるってことっすか？
He folded his arms and then heaved a long and heavy sigh.
それをしないでやってくれりゃその線もあるんですがね。こんな遠くまで運んで焼いちゃったら下手したらわかんないでしょう。見せしめにするならひなみ沢の近くでやるべきなんですよ。殺したことを主張したいのに場所は演出効果の確実じゃない遠方。主張したいのか隠したいのか。今年は何考えてるのかな、お社様は。
A telephone ring cut through the heavy silence. A staff member nearby snatched up the receiver.
おいさん、小宮山さんです。出ました。沖宮のデンタルクリニックで3年前に親知らずの治療をしてます。
カルテは？
レントゲン付きでバッチリと。
いやー、こんな明け方前に歯医者さんには申し訳ないな。熊ちゃん、小宮山君からカルテ受け取ったらすぐに出発してください。
了解っす。あ、課長です。夜分お疲れ様です。
大石さん、遅くなって申し訳ない。状況は？
やっと面白くなってきたってとこですかね。 燃えてきたぞ。
Chief, you won't believe who the fuck we just found.
Wow!
What a turn of events. That's for sure.